All right, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Fans Union for the fans by the fans. What's going on, fellas? We got a full house tonight,
Yo,
You.
Let's get it.
and we had a pretty loaded college football week this uh, past weekend. So, plenty to divulge upon. Um, First, everybody have a good weekend.
I'd
Hey,
say there's
everybody's
plenty of
seen
reasons to
more,
say.
so I think we're golden.
yeah, I think everybody got to watch a lot more football this weekend, so everybody should be in good spirits.
I'll also say probably the success of some of these games kind of made our weekends, so if you will.
Fair
Um,
point.
But yeah, so we're gonna talk about some of the games. Had a lot of action this past weekend. Playoff rankings should come out during this, so you'll take a look at those when they come out. Predict some games for this week. But first, um, I guess we'll go ahead and open with what was kind of the biggest statement game of the week, and one that mattered most to us was number 10 Georgia, excuse me, number 10 Texas traveled to number 5 Georgia. And that game, any game with Georgia versus Alabama versus Texas, et cetera, teams like that, always going to be a big game. But Texas came in. It was a 14-point, or excuse me, it was a 4-point game at the beginning of the fourth quarter, and in about 6 minutes, it is an 18-point game. So I had quite a bit go on right there. Georgia, I think, undoubtedly really played their best game of the season. Had a lot of offensive firepower, defense, made some plays, forced turnovers, got a lot of pressure on Arch. Ended up walking away with a 35-10 victory. So I just want to say I thought to win this game is going to kind of take an Arch Manning legacy game, which a lot of it was, poor receiver play. I feel like I was watching Georgia last season. Not that, there were a ton of amazing throws, but there were definitely some balls that could have gone for massive yardage if they're not dropped. But what happens, happens. Well, how I look at it is like I see in the Twitter sphere and Texas side is like, man, if they don't drop these balls, this is a whole different game. I'm like, yeah, you don't really get to say that after you drop like 6 or 7. That's kind of just what you do, right? But Georgia put up 357 yards, a total offense, almost outgained Texas by 100. Won the first down battle. Only had one penalty. Georgia's one of the least penalized teams in the football, so that was great to see. And won the third down battle. Wasn't a super impressive one, but still won. And then outpossessed Tennessee by 11 minutes. Texas by 11 minutes. Dogs come out on top. Seem to have certainly punched in their ticket for the playoffs, barring something horrific happening. But seems like the Dogs are definitely headed to the playoffs, and depending on how next week rolls, could be in the SEC championship. So, yeah. So, Graham, Tripp, one of y'all follow up with me real quick.
Go ahead, Graham.
I figured I'll let you take the cake since you let me roll first last week. Open up for us, Chief.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest takeaways for me, not only as a Georgia fan, but just as a college football fan in general from this game was it was just clean football for Georgia all around in every aspect of this game, from special teams to third downs to defense, offense. I mean, Georgia just continuously gets better. I know we had a lot of gripes and complaints about this team early on, and it seems that maybe they listened to the pod and they started doing some things differently. But
I hope so.
I hope so too. But man, if there's one trophy I can give for this game, it goes to Mr. Mike Bobo himself, man. That man has consistently been in his bag, continuously pull stuff out of his back pocket that I'm not expecting at all, especially that fourth down play on our own, 35, I think it was. Just an absolute dominant game. I know there was a lot of times where the score was pretty close for the most part, where Texas was within reach, but if you truly sat down and watched every snap of this game, even biased aside, I don't think Texas stood a chance in this one. I mean, the only touchdown they scored in all 4 quarters was when we gave them a short field when Gunner threw that pick. So, and a lot of those yards that we're seeing on the box score were all in garbage time when they were down 28-10, 35-10, and they're just trying to bulldoze down the field to make something happen. But y'all know I'm going to come with my stats, so I got a couple for y'all. So Georgia now has as many ranked wins as many wins against currently ranked teams as Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon combined. I think that's a pretty big statement. The only team that has more ranked wins in the top 10 currently before the rankings change, given that Bama stays in that top 10, which I think they should, is Bama with 4. So, I mean, we've seen a lot of close battles with this Georgia team, but they find their way on top other than that Alabama game, and that one was a really close one too. So I know we're going to get into that game a little bit later, but one of the other things I really wanted to point out, one thing that Georgia really struggled with last year was establishing the run. And right now, Georgia is averaging 193.5 rushing yards per game against ranked opponents. So that says a lot about the improvements that this offense have made since last season. And just to put it in perspective, that's more than the back-to-back national championship teams also were averaging against ranked opponents those years as well. I think that's the only other things I wanted to point out. I know there's been a lot of – I found the last thing I wanted to talk about. There's been I think the newest debate on Twitter is this whole SEC versus Big Ten debates of who's better, who's not. I mean, it's clear that there are some pretty bad teams in the SEC. There's some good ones, vice versa, Big Ten. But one thing I did want to point out that I saw somebody post on Twitter. So if you take all the wins against currently ranked opponents by conference, the SEC has 18. Does anybody want to take a guess how many the Big Ten has as a whole?
Well, repeat that one more time. What is it? They have 18?
They have 18 wins against current ranked opponents. How many do you think the Big Ten has?
4.
5.
It's 4.
I'm about to say no because it would have to be because you said Texas or Georgia had more than Indiana, Oregon, and Ohio State combined. So, wow.
Yeah, 4 total the Big Ten has this year. So, obviously the SEC is going to continue to be a gauntlet. I'm gonna leave it at. I'm just glad to see Georgia continuously improve as the season rolls along.
And their conference, by the way, their conference schedule is over. So they finish up. I guess that'd be 6-1 in the SEC. Only loss being to Bama. So shout out the Dogs. Graham, go ahead.
Yeah, man, I'll hop right in and I'll give my. I mean, I know we Bulldogs, but these are my Bloodhounds of the week. Shouts out to Quintavious. DeMello Jones, I'm sure all of us have already seen his highlight tackle. That was pretty much that was the bookmark play of that game. A lot of Georgia's pivotal matchups kind of have that moment or that play that stands out and signifies or represents kind of like how that game was played. A lot like Jalen Carter picking up Daniels in the SEC championship game. Things of that nature. Another good standout play to me that I think of when I think of just big hits like that was when number 7 laid the wood against Florida, I think last year.
Peyton Harris, yep.
Harris, really just popped them and set the tone for the rest of the game. So shouts out to DeMello for that big hit. Gabe Harris finally showed us his ceiling and not his floor. He's not a terrible player by any stretch. He's kind of our Chaz Chambliss of this year, if I have to kind of like pick that. Be that guy. Chaz caught a lot of shit for being the person who set the edge the best at his position, probably during his entire time at University of Georgia. He wasn't a superstar at basically anything else, but when you're a team that rotates and is as deep as Georgia, it's essential to have players like Gabe, who his floor is setting the edge and doing the dirty work, but man, he really showed us his ceiling last weekend and made some incredible, big plays. I actually think that him and Quintavious had a dual sack where they sat Arch right on his ass. I mean, and not to even stretch it or, be biased, but they played out of their skin. Chris Cole, way to step up, him and Raylan both to step up in CJ Allen's absence. He goes out injured in the second quarter, and Georgia only allows 7 points for the rest of that game. You can call it what you want and pick apart, plays, officiating, momentum swings. At the end of the day, on paper, to let up 7 points against the best team that you've played since Alabama, and many would argue better than Alabama on paper, I guess, so to speak, barring a few positions, and only allow 7 points when your best player goes out, a whole half of football at that, including some, it's crazy. And of course, the usual suspects on offense, Noah and London really stepping up and carrying the momentum over to the offensive side of the ball and giving Gunner as much help as he could possibly ask for. Humphreys is really becoming our clutch man. I will say that play against Tennessee was kind of transcendent for how he's looked for the rest of the year, and we loving it. But we've kind of been waiting for him to hit on since he transferred over from Vandy. He was a standout guy for them, but he for sure put up his best numbers at Vandy so far so this year. And maybe even if he finishes with numbers that don't pop off the page, man, has he made some incredibly big plays for us. So shouts out to him. Beyond that, I kind of put in my notes here that Humphreys is like he's giving me vibes of Rosemy Jack Saint back on some of those 21 and 22 teams. Never going to pop off in the box score, but will give you 2 or 3 big pivotal catches, especially in the end zone, red zone type areas. So that's kind of it for me. I chose to focus in on my feedback around the players this week because they're who won us this game. The coaching definitely was there as far as like the things that we pointed out last week being a mismatch, but it was up to the players to follow through and deliver on that. And man, did they do that shit. So shouts to the dogs. Shouts to my bloodhounds this week. But shouts to all the dogs. Every dog had their day on Saturday. And we roll into Charlotte this week.
And I think
we roll into Athens against Charlotte. My bad, Joe.
Oh no, my fault. I didn't realize you were still going. So one thing I do want to bring up is Georgia. I mean, I don't think unless Georgia plays Ohio State, you're really probably not going to play better defense than this. So that's one thing that's encouraging. But I think we'd be remiss to talk about that fourth quarter. Like I said, like Tripp said, like Tripp and I said, short field. They had 36 yards to go when Gunner throws that pick. Next thing you know, it's 14-10. Like Tripp said, game didn't really seem close, but you kind of had that feeling in your stomach like last year when Georgia played Texas and that interception gets overturned. Next thing you know, it's 23-15. It's time to answer back, right? Well, Georgia did that going forward on 4th down twice. First time being they motioned. It was crazy. They motioned
McCray.
Monroe Freeling.
Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, they motioned on Monroe Freeling to the right side of the line of scrimmage. Run a fullback dive play action, fake it to Horton, dump it off to Chauncey. I mean, what a play call. But then they throw, they get them to it's 4th and 4 in their own territory. They get them to jump offside. Colin Simmons.
Tripp, we were on a 36, right? Isn't that what you said? 36, something like that.
We were on our own 36. Yeah,
we were in Texas territory. I'm sorry. We were in Texas territory at that time. The first time is deep in our own territory. But I was saying, I don't know how they picked up that pass interference. If you don't call pass interference, that's one thing, but I have no idea how you picked that one up. Neither here nor there because they got the first down regardless. And then I think they end up throwing the man beater to London Humphreys on that. Texas really surprised me because they showed that they could not handle motion. That play right there, they move London in motion. The corner takes the extra, so the X, the guy's on the outside, and the safety, Taft, is standing over Humphrey. But Taft goes and they basically like double team the X. So may have been Noah, and then you got London right down the seam. Beautiful, right? So I'm like, okay, 21-10, time to go get a stop, put it in again. Well, Kirby Paul Smart put his stones on full display and said, no, I got bigger plans. Kicked an onside kick. Yeah, Julius Randle style. Flawlessly executed onside kick. Chaz picks it up. Or I said Chaz. Cash picks it up, and we go down to score again. Next thing you know, Arch touches the ball. It's a 4-point game. Next time he touches it, it's 18 points. Kirby Smart says he's here to win. He's not here to try and win. He's not here to be conservative. He's here to win games. This Georgia team is trending in the right direction. They're getting better every week, and it seems like he's hitting his peak. If I'm any other team, I do not want to be on the same field as the Dogs right now. But I think that was definitely the moment where everybody was kind of like, whoa, what's like, it didn't feel real. I didn't think I was happening. Like it was really happening. I was like, did I just imagine that? Did he shank it? But man, what stones by Kirby to say, hey, this is our game. It's time to put it away. Go at 28-10, get another stop. So the Texas possessions, real quick, want to look at Texas possession. It went, 6 yards, 6 plays, 36 yards to Texas. Then Georgia goes 10 plays, 6 minutes, scores for I can't talk at all. 10 plays, 73 yards in 6 minutes. Next thing you know, 9 plays, 53 yards in 5.5 minutes. Texas gets the ball back, punts. Georgia scores a touchdown, turnover on downs, and it's just ball game's over. So Kirby trusted his guys, trusted his process like he's been doing the whole time. And that's why you win these big games like this. So major shout out to Kirby Smart. I don't know if there's such thing as giving him not enough credit, but I feel like you don't deserve too much credit in that situation. So big shout out to El Presidente.
Yeah, I'll add to that. So I didn't have too much to say about this game because watching the game with Pops, the Ole Miss game that is, we had that on the big TV. And then Pops brought out the projector, had the projector run in Texas and Georgia. So it was a lot of like long timeouts, injuries, what's it called? Commercials. I'm just kind of peeping over, right? So my dad's like, oh shit, Georgia scored. I'm like, all right, yeah, cool. 21-10. And then I literally like run to the kitchen, grab a drink, come back. And I'm like, oh damn, like Georgia must have got a pick or whatever. Like they're going crazy with the ball. Like I didn't see who it was right off the rip, but I saw Georgia like holding the ball up. They show the crowd, it's going nuts. And I was like, I thought you said they just scored. My dad's like, they did. I'm like, how the hell did they have time to turn it over that quick? Arch must have threw a pick. Then they show that replay. And I'm like, the ball's on Kirby Smart. Me and my dad were just like, what did we just see? Like for like a good 2-minute window, like I couldn't tell you if it was still a commercial. I couldn't tell you what was going on in the Ole Miss game because I'm like, the ball's with Kirby Smart to be able to pull that off. And that's all I got to say. Like, if you live in a house that's under 2,000 square feet, you don't have enough room in your house to cover the balls of Kirby Smart. Like, I'm talking just massive cojones by the guy. So I said last week on the predictions, I just think Kirby Smart's the best coach in football. And, like, that's a prime example of why. Because Sarkisian, in a pregame interview earlier in the week, was talking about how Kirby's got something up his sleeve on special teams. So you're openly admitting that, like, Kirby's going to pull some cards out from underneath his hat, sleeve, whatever you want to call it. He does it, and it works to perfection. Like, it doesn't get – there's been one kick in my life, onside kick in my life, that I've seen that was more perfectly executed than that. And that was Pat McAfee kicking it to the midfield and just falling on it, and no one's around him. Other than that, that's as perfect as it gets, what you guys performed on Saturday. So
I thought you were going to say that Sean Payton onside from the Super Bowl.
Yeah, me too.
That's what you was going to say.
Oh, yeah, okay. But yeah, that shit really blew me away. Shout out to Georgia. They kind of did what I expected. And I just want to throw like a random fact out. So like, you guys know it's like you're in kids, you're like playing imaginary football, whether it's outside in the yard with a brother or like outside or inside, like by yourself, outside by yourself, whatever, right? So weird fact. I don't know why. I think Joey, I might have told you this before. For whatever reason, back then when I was a kid, 35-10 was like the perfect score. And as a kid, this is exactly why I used to think this, because 35-10 is like you can have a pretty damn close game. And then at the end, you score like a late game, like a late onside kick or late interception or something like that kind of just changes the game. And all of a sudden you blink and you're like, it's a 25-point win, which is a great win, but it was also closer than it kind of looks. And I feel like my kid brain, this is exactly why I thought 35-10 was such a like tremendous score to win by, because it can be close, but also if you really look at it, you're like, I don't know, 25 points, that's pretty significant. So that's just a random fact. Every time I see 35-10, I think about little 7-year-old Logan thinking that was like the perfect score to win by. So
nothing wrong with that, man. We did make him pass sticks in the fourth quarter, and that's really the difference. So
hey, Joey, before we hit the 20-minute mark, I got like 30 seconds. I was gonna say, I feel like, you mentioned being remiss for not mentioning some points earlier. I feel like we all would be that, at least, the dog fans in here would be, if we didn't dedicate at least a little bit to this defense, a little bit extra. They just sprinkle on top of everything this week, at least for me. But with this last little, bit before we hit this next stretch, I just wanted to bring up this quote that I heard from Sark in the post-game conference. And this is word for word from Sark, actually. He said, we never got the opportunity to run the ball. Now, I highlighted that because he didn't say we had trouble running the ball. He didn't say that based on the looks we were getting, it made sense for us to pass more, or we were down by a deficit. It makes more sense to pass the ball. He said we didn't get the opportunity to run the ball. I think that type of shit, man, like coaches say things very selectively. They're very choosy with words. They know exactly what type of microscope that they live under. They know exactly the type of heat that they'll catch from boosters, they higher ups, everybody, if they say things that, don't look the right way and give the right PR. To say that we didn't have the opportunity to run the ball, this defense, man, I don't think anyone in this chat, in this lobby, in this world who supports the Georgia Bulldogs or even spectates us, our biggest haters, anything in between, could have pictured the head coach of Texas with that good of a damn defense. Anthony Hill is a freak. I mean, he needs to be the first defensive player off the board after Downs, legit. So, I mean, for the head coach of that team to be saying that against this defense 7 weeks ago, Trip, how much money would you have put down, to bet that you would have been saying this about this, or, been hearing that about this defense, man? That's crazy to me. Shouts to the defense, man.
Yeah, that's the best they've looked all year, and it's not even close. Like that's the defense that we've been hoping to see all year, and they came out at the perfect time.
Yeah, so hopefully that trend continues, especially with the big game coming up against Georgia Tech in a couple weeks, and what could be a big game the week after, in the SEC championship. But we'll just keep letting it ride. But next, we're going to get into Logan's big game of the week. So Florida Gators, as we talked about, they've got that last Infinity Stone in Oxford. That Infinity Stone is Lane Kiffin. All the Florida fans, oh, this is the biggest game ever, blah, 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 blah. Ole Miss gets to win 34-24. Quan Lacey has his, I don't want to call it coming out party because he's probably had the best season from any running back this year. But really, I think stamped himself as, hey, yeah, I'm the guy. But I won't divulge too much in it because I didn't watch a ton, obviously, with Georgia being on. So, Logan, take it away.
I did watch a ton with Georgia being on. First and foremost, Lane Kiffin, I fucking love you. I will always love you, even if you break my heart in a few weeks. It'll just be one of those things I got to just learn how to live without you kind of thing. But absolutely love Lane Kiffin. I want to just start by saying that. First and foremost, it's kind of crazy because this Florida win feels way bigger than it really is. And maybe it's because last year they're one of the teams that knocked us off when they shouldn't have. And then obviously there's a lot of hoopla around it. And then obviously when you take into consideration how close Ole Miss is on the brink of finally breaking down that wall of making a playoff it's oh my God, like there was like a little bit of weight off my shoulders, but then like I didn't remember, damn it, we still play state, So it's like phenomenal feeling to get that win, especially in the fashion we do it. One thing I want to point out, so Ole Miss against Georgia, fourth quarter fell apart. It's no secret there. Fourth quarter against Georgia, we got outscored 17-0, and we were up 8 going into that fourth quarter. Or maybe it's 9 going into that fourth quarter. Okay, so we were up 9 going into that fourth. Yeah, that's right, because it was 2 possessions. We were up 9 going into the fourth quarter. We get outscored 17-0. We lose by 8. Pretty deflating, pretty depressing way to lose, especially after the way that game was going back and forth all game. And then it looked like we took a little bit of control there in the third by getting up 2 scores. Since then, Ole Miss has outscored their opponents 30-0 in the fourth quarter. Have not allowed a single point in the fourth quarter. So if there's ever a way to answer back on what was quite the deflating loss against Georgia, just because kind of how it played out, that's one hell of a way to bounce back. I know we haven't had crazy big teams that we've played. We did, we beat Oklahoma, yes, but after that, yeah, it is South Carolina, yeah, it is Florida, and then, yeah, Citadel, but we also only scored 7 against Citadel. So if you take the Citadel game out of this, we still outscored our opponents 23-0, and they're all 3 SEC opponents. So I really, really, really like how we've bounced back in the fourth quarter and seem to have maybe learned from some of the mistakes we made against Georgia. With that being said, speaking of mistakes, I feel like there was a ton of them by us in this game. We dominated this game. Like, for us to have to score a touchdown with a minute 30 left to make it a 2-possession game, very, very, very scary for me. Let me see. So we had 538 total yards to Florida's 326, and we had to score a touchdown with a minute 30 to make it a 2-possession game. So that is terrifying. Time of possession, I'm pretty sure, 37, almost 38 minutes. We're 3 seconds shy of 38 minutes. They only have the ball for 22 minutes. Somehow Florida's in this game. We'll say to open this game, we're up 10-0. It seemed like we had a ton of momentum. Florida marches down and scores. Okay, cool. They found a drive together. And then Trinidad Chambliss makes a horrible read, throws a pick, and then they gives them a short field. Then they score, and we're down 14-10 in the blink of an eye. And I'm like, oh, here we go. I'll be honest. Second quarter when they took the lead, third quarter, pretty much the whole quarter, and pretty much the beginning of the fourth quarter. That whole time, I told my dad, I was like, these are the kind of games we lose. Like, everything said we were losing that game. Like, it was just the typical – seemed like we were crumbling and falling apart. Like, we're doing enough just to stay in it, but never really, like, getting the lead back, things of that nature. And, boy, was I wrong. Ole Miss, they figured it out. It was – I hate to say it was a scrappy win, but it kind of was because, like I said, we dominated the whole game if you look at the score, like, everything but the score. And that kind of seems like what Ole Miss has done all year. We've done it against Arkansas. We did it against LSU previously. So just another game where it seems like – I don't want to say playing with our food, but it's just like – it seems like we're getting down there and settling for field goals and things of that nature. So that's deflating. Florida's defense inside the 20. Between the 20s, we were dominating. As soon as we got in the red zone every time, it was rough. Twice we got stopped inside the 5. One of them twice in the fourth quarter we got stopped inside the 5. One of them, very questionable play call. I still do not know 1,000% who is calling plays because I've seen Lane Kiffin. I've seen Charlie Weiss Jr. I don't know who the hell it is. Whoever it is, on 3rd and goal from the 1, with Quan Lacey having the game he is, there's zero reason, and I mean zero reason we should have Austin Simmons in the game. And Trinidad Chambliss having a good game also, other than the one throw.
I do want to say real quick.
Throwing in Austin Simmons.
I want to interrupt you here because we that was one of the breaks with the Georgia game where we went back and watched it. And it blew my mind. You're inside the 5-yard line, and you don't snap it to your quarterback once, like your starting quarterback once. Because if I remember correctly, it was a direct snap on 2 of them, and then they ran the reverse with Simmons, and then it was a turnover on 4th down, right? Here goes the delay.
Yeah, so Simmons got 2 snaps that drive, yeah.
Yeah, that blows like that. You can't win these games, or maybe you can win these games, obviously, but you come down playing these playoff games – and you get cute like that, man, that's usually a bad omen. But I think we have the delay going right now, so I'll let you keep rolling.
Okay. I will say this as far as Simmons goes. I don't hate the idea of throwing him in the game if we're sputtering on offense. But if we're getting inside the 20 damn near every drive, I don't want to see that, man. I don't. I'm like, sorry, Austin Simmons, but Chambliss is the guy. Chambliss is still a Heisman. He's still got a betting favor for Heisman for a reason next to his name. I know it's like 13 at this point. He's fell out of the top 10 and stuff, but he's still in the conversation, but not really. But you guys get what I'm saying. So absolutely hate that play call, and I hate the fact that we throw it to a reverse on Chambliss, and then that 4th down also. So Chambliss has the bad throw, and then that is just a busted play. Don't really understand it. And then the 4th down, honestly, Trey Wallace could have walked in the end zone, but I don't know what really happened with Chambliss. He hikes in, basically throws it at his feet, and had the time and everything to hit Chambliss, and hit Wallace, and Wallace could have easily walked in for a touchdown. Doesn't happen. I think it was like first or second play from the 1. They break it down to like the 30 or 40. So immediately they get their back out from the end zone. So another moment in that game where I'm like, looking at my dad, like, these are the kind of games we lose. Like, I don't know what we're doing. Like, it is some head-scratching moments in there. Also, another big play I want to talk about is second quarter, right before the half, we kick a field goal, and they get Florida gets called for illegal hands to the face. The refs announce that it is after the play, right? And it's going to be on the kickoff. Well, replay shows from the side, literally the ball is above the line, and Florida's hands are just straight up our face mask. And somehow, instead of us getting a first down and 4 plays to get in the end zone, the call stand, which it wasn't reviewable, but they got together and were talking about it. They let the call play out and stand the way they called it on the field. They didn't overturn it, which is, I don't understand why you talk for 5 minutes only to say we messed up and then let it stay on, because they later admitted to Kiffin right before half that they messed up, and Kiffin said that in his halftime interview. So that was a big swing because we kicked the field goal, and then Florida ends up going down and scoring a touchdown to take the lead before half. So that was a huge 10-point swing there. So, like, instead of us getting the field goal off the board, but then having 4 shots at the end zone, then Florida gets the ball. We kick the field goal, it stands. Then they go down and score a touchdown. So that was a huge swing. Another reason why in that game I'm like, this is the shit. Like, this is just what happens. And then this is also just me being a nervous Ole Miss fan because we always seem to drop the ball somewhere in here. But yeah, so there was just a bunch of things in this game where it just felt like, ah, shit, here we go again. I've seen this one before. But Ole Miss pulls it off. Not only do they pull it off, when we officially – so we get the ball like a minute and a half left inside the 5. Princely comes up with a huge sack inside the 5. Shout out to that. And then we get the ball, and it's immediately direct snap to Quan Lacey. Touchdown. He scores number 3 on the day. Caps off his huge game. But then I don't really like that because then we gave the ball back to Florida with like a minute 35 left, and they're only down 10. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, we should easily win this, but something didn't sit well with me just because it's like I love Lane for, like putting the icing on the cake to Quan's big day. But at the same time, it's like, dude, let's just make sure we get out here with a win before we get too cute out here, So luckily, we end up getting them to turn the ball over, whatever, on downs, and then we nil it out. There was nothing better than hearing that stadium chant, "We want Lane," and how loud it was coming through my TV was insane. So I keep making points about Ole Miss's fans showing up for these big games like South Carolina and Florida, like, because Lane begs for that. He has since he's gotten there 5-6 years ago. Like, he always says he wants a home crowd. Holy shit at the home crowd. Like, shout out to the fans in Oxford showing up, showing out, staying the whole game, being loud, something we don't usually do for 4 quarters. So that was really, really, really nice to see. Quan Lacey, with his first touchdown, broke the single-season record for rushing touchdowns in a season. I think it was his second or third I think it was his second touchdown. He broke the record for touchdowns in a single season at Ole Miss. We still have a game to play. So pretty insane what Quan Lacey has done, and very quietly, I would say. Not a lot of people really talk about Quan Lacey. It doesn't seem on like a national scheme. But few fun facts about Quan Lacey. I know I'm running long, but just want to give my guys their flowers while I can. Quan Lacey has the 3rd most rushing yards in the league. He has the most rushing touchdowns in the league, and is tied for the most touchdowns in the league. There's a wide receiver out of, I think it was, I want to say like North Texas or something. It was some random school. He has 16 receiving touchdowns, 3 rushing. So he's tied with him for most in the nation. And not really hearing Quan Lacey's name getting thrown out a lot when you're talking about best running backs in the country. So I love how quietly he's doing it. I love that Lane Kiffin goes and gets him in the portal after missing on him out of high school, because he was going after him in high school. Gets him to come from Missouri. Last year, the biggest hole in our team was the rushing game. So I love the fact that we went and got Lacey. The man's a dog. He's went for over 143 different times this year. So shout out to Quan Lacey. Really, really big game. And there was nothing better than a post-game interview. Lane Kiffin takes his belt off, hands it to Quan Lacey so Quan Lacey can hit the belt's ass, little emote, whatever the fuck you want to call it. So all in all, kind of like an emotional roller coaster in that game, just because the whole second, third, a lot of the beginning of the 4th quarter really just felt like one of those games where we're going to let it slip through the cracks, and it's going to be one of those games at the end where you're scratching your head like, how? Like, how did we let that happen? How did we lose this one? How is this the game keeping us out of the playoffs? But somehow we pulled it off. Shout out to the fans. Shout out to Kiffin. Shout out Quan Lacey. Trinidad had a pretty solid game other than a couple missed throws, the pick, and the one where he throws it at the feet. But all in all, super excited about how we've handled it, and mainly how we bounced back in the 4th quarter since Georgia. I know that's long-winded, but it was a good win. Feeling good right now.
Yeah, I mean, I hate because I mean, on my burner account, I see a ton of on the Twitter, that is, I see a ton of Florida fans always like, "Oh, you guys are so happy about beating a 3-6, now 3-17." Let me tell you something, bro. Fans and players, people who compete, you do not get to dictate or police how they act at a win. Every fan should be happy about a win no matter what. It's not our job to worry about, oh, well, this could lead to a problem down the road. That's the coach's problem. That's the player's problem. That's not us. Every win that Georgia has, I'm going to enjoy it. No matter if it's over 3-17 or 14-0 team. I'm going to enjoy every single one. But back to that game, a big headline. Say what? Over at SEC school, yeah, I agree.
I said especially at SEC school. Any SEC win is a good win.
So I want to touch on this because I don't want to because we harp on this quite a bit on this show so far this season. But there's been the reports. Lane's family has been in Baton Rouge. They've been in Gainesville for the LSU and Florida openings. Per the Athletic, they reported that he was supposed to be, or that he had an ultimatum by the Egg Bowl today on Pat McAfee. He says that's not true. One thing when I know about players, coaches, if they say something is not true that was reported, that means that they're the player or coach is 100% lying. I guarantee you they gave him that ultimatum, but how do you even announce that that's been done, right? I do think he has a decision to make by that point. But man, I really hate this calendar. I really hate this calendar because let's just pretend whether or not it is true. Let's pretend it is. You're telling a guy who is one win away from locking himself in the playoffs and barring something crazy, an SEC championship, that guy has this to go. Your school's never made the playoffs, and it seems like, hey, once you make the decision, you've got to go. So I don't know what's going to happen there, but I do feel like that they 100% gave him an ultimatum because the Athletic is about as trusted as a source as you can find, and they typically, from what I've seen, a lot of these things that they report that are immediately refuted often turn out to be true. But yeah, so if you guys want to hit on that real quick, I do think there is one, but I think it's really unfair.
My biggest thing of why I don't think that's true, why would you be one win away from the playoffs, literally one win away from a guaranteed playoff spot for the first time in your program's history, and you're going to spoil that by telling Kiffin he has to do it by this? I'm not buying that. I think it's what Lane Kiffin would call, or Nick Saban used to say back in the day, I think that's rat poison. I think that is very much so people just trying to screw up what's going on there heading into a bye week, because what else do you have to talk about around Ole Miss during a bye week? I think it's rat poison. I think it's bullshit, because there's no way that Keith Carter, who has been an excellent athletic director for Ole Miss, is going to Pilates classes with him at 6 a.m., but then telling him you got a week to figure out your future if you really are trying to make a decision on your future. There's no way. That literally makes zero sense to do that before you're about to clinch a playoff spot. I'm not buying
10 years
it.
ago,
Yeah.
10 years ago, I'd agree with you. But when you have a transfer portal that opens up in less than a month, and you've got to get things going, and you can't afford to wait on that because you don't know if you can't be telling guys that you're going to be here or not next year. I think it definitely opens up the realm of possibility that could happen.
Yeah, I think
not a game before clinching a playoff spot. I'm not buying it.
Just to hop in here, and I know Logan will definitely have the most insight on this out of all of us for obvious reasons. But just to kind of piggyback on what both of you guys are hitting at, I do think that whether it be sourcing the Athletic as a credible source, or the fact that I did see somebody from Ole Miss is like higher up hierarchy, they tweeted something along the lines of like, it'd be nice if Logan, are you familiar with the tweet I'm talking about? Like like he was commenting about the stadium atmosphere, and he was saying it'd be nice to know, basically something along the lines of like having that assurance. You familiar with the tweet I'm talking about?
I don't know exactly which one, because I've seen a handful of them kind of saying something similar.
Yeah, it was somebody big though, because I saw numerous like talking heads around the sport obviously saying like, wow, okay, like this is a big name at Ole Miss saying stuff like this. So I just feel like if it wasn't true, it's been out for a couple of days now and nobody's come out to detest it. Even if someone didn't say it and maybe there's just leverage games going on, to not come out and detest it in this day and age where people are coming out and speaking on things, I do think that there's some leverage games going on here. I saw pictures of Lane Kiffin, like, at like Florida. I didn't see any pictures of him at LSU, but I definitely saw like there was a picture of him going viral today, like standing in a parking deck in Florida, and a bunch of people from Florida were like, "Yep, that's him here." And at the end of the day, I said today I felt like Lane's gonna stay at Ole Miss, but I do think he's talking to both suitors. He's gonna do what anybody who is smart in this instance would do, and playing that leverage game. we all know that these SEC coaches all have the same agent. They all have the same agent in Jimmy Sexton. So at the end of the day, when you at the top of the top, like Lane, Kirby, Sark, and all these, I do feel like the out. Like we lost everybody. Lane is the outlier in the sense of we're still waiting on him and Ole Miss to make that real long-term commitment. And this is the final steps before that. Of course, we're still going to see what he ultimately decides. But I do think Ole Miss probably did say something along those lines because they have to stick up for themselves. If Lane ends up leaving and y'all, was basically keeping your hands in y'all's pockets the entire time while he's talking to both of these suitors and his family flying out and shit, I feel like it would be, disadvantageous, if that's even a fucking word, for y'all to not, do something like that. Y'all got to put y'all foot down at some point. And damn right, you need to be looking at other coaches as well. What Marcus Freeman talking about. See what some of these other coaches is talking about. Because he damn sure flying his family out. I get being appreciative and wanting to be optimistic about making this a long-term thing. And he obviously is option A. But we know his family flew out to Baton Rouge. And that picture I saw him at Florida, like, that shit looked like him, bro. He had a hoodie on, but he was on the phone. It looked just like his ass. I'm like, damn, okay, so shit heating up at least,
I was going to just jump in here real quick and give my 2 cents. It's hard to say what report is true, what's not true. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff floating around. I do agree that The Athletic is about as credible as a source as it gets, but I'm with Graham on this. I mean, as crazy as it sounds to say, like, how could they possibly give him an ultimatum right before they're about to clinch a playoff? Like, what if he says, yeah, I want to leave. Now what do you do? Who's coaching your team during this playoff? Like all those things that could happen in the midst of it. But like Graham saying, Ole Miss can't sit there and just hope to God that he's coming back. Like, they got to have a plan B. And I think ultimately them doing this puts the ball in their court instead of Lane's court, because this whole time the ball has been in Lane's court of, oh, I can worry about that after the playoffs. I'm focused on XYZ right now. This is not in my rear view, whatever. But when you are a school that's fighting for a playoff spot and damn near almost a lock, if not already a lock for the playoffs, you have to know these things. Just like Joey said, like, the transfer portal opens up in 3.5 weeks. So if we're talking about the playoffs being at the end of December, they need to know who's going to be coaching them boys that they're bringing in. So I don't know. I could definitely see something coming out and saying that the report was false. I know Lane, you mentioned he was on, on there today saying it was false. He's never going to admit that that's true, even if it is, in my opinion. But if Ole Miss actually gave him that ultimatum, as crazy as it sounds, I think they did the right thing, because they're like, hey, we need to know what the hell is going on. You haven't denied anything. You haven't said yes to anything. We just need to know where we're headed as a program. And, like, in a respectful way, like, we'll figure it out, but we just need to know where you're at.
And your daughter won that. And your daughter won that Pilates today. All that shit last week was fine. That shit was cute. Where the fuck was your daughter today? Was she at Pilates or Baton Rouge? And if so, why was your family in Baton Rouge? Like, at the end of the day, ain't no one bigger than the program. Just like Joey said in the chat, ain't no one bigger than the program. Even Lane. At a certain point, Ole Miss got to put their foot down.
She dates LSU's star linebacker.
Oh, I do want to say this real quick. Let's before we get into semantics. I do want to say this. I don't think it's Ole Miss in the wrong. I don't think it's Lane Kiffin in the wrong. I think this freaking calendar sucks that these coaches have to endure. I was listening to the Ryan Russillo show the other day, and he had another guy from the Athletic named Bruce Feldman, wrote a lot of college books, really, really deep in College Insider. And he was saying how coaches say, hey, man, this lifestyle sucks that we go through now, and guys can't wait to get to the NFL. The desire to be an NFL coach has never been higher. It's never been higher because you get to do all the football things, but you get to have a summer. You don't have to spend every day recruiting. This calendar sucks, and that's why I think you're probably not going to see any Nick Sabans going further, or any Joe Paternos, Frank Beamers, anything like that. Just guys who coach well into their 70s, because this isn't sustainable. It truthfully isn't. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what the truth is. But if what's reported is true, I can't blame either side. This is a really tough situation. It sucks.
Like I said, I find it hard to believe that you're going to give them an ultimatum right before you have a shot to clinch the playoffs. And as far as us like locking him up long term, like legally in the state of Mississippi, we are giving him the longest contract that we can possibly give him. And at the end of every season, we have added on a year to make it the longest contract we can give him. Literally every year he has been there. So as far as Ole Miss, they're giving him a pay raise every year, and they're extending him an extra year every year because that hits their max years for Mississippi's like laws or whatever. So Ole Miss has done all they can really do to like lock him up long term. And as far like, yeah, I mean, kind of like what Tripp and Graham's getting like, yeah, you're gonna hear him out. Like, there's not been a more sought after head coach other than Lane Kiffin like this year in years, as far as how many teams and how much hoopla is surrounding this man about possibly leaving and all this stuff. So it's like business sense, like I get Lane doing what Lane has to do, but at the end of the day, my opinion is Lane Kiffin has been through a lot of trials and tribulations as a coach, as far as leaving Tennessee and getting thraxed for it, left for his dream job at USC. USC, a couple years later, leaves him on the tarmac. He's the youngest head coach ever in the NFL. Like, he's kind of had a lot of ups and downs in his career. We all kind of know that. He had to go to Alabama to kind of rehab himself, takes over to FAU to continue that rehabilitation of his persona and all this, like reputation, whatever you want to call it. And then he takes a job at Ole Miss, which a lot of people thought would be like a year or two kind of thing, maybe three, have one big season and dip. And he's had 4 big seasons now, and so far has not dipped. Obviously, that's to be determined. But I will say this about Lane Kiffin. There's one thing that I think that can top what he just went through this past weekend. As far as you winning a big game against someone who's really, really wanting you, and then that 2-3 minutes where they're chanting, "We want Lane," like, dude, your reputation has been rehabilitated, brother. Like, it doesn't get any better than that as a head coach. Like, how insane of a moment. It's like, that's some cinema shit. Like, that is truly just like some stuff you see in ESPN 30 for 30, and you're just like, it's like Derek Jeter's walk-off hit. Like, how does it play off like this, right? Like, all the hell he's been through, and this is the moment he's in where the place he's at loves him. There's multiple other schools that love him and want him. I think the only thing he could reach that's a higher peak than that is winning a national championship. Like, truthfully, that's from what Saturday is. Like, there's no way Lane Kiffin's not sitting in that stadium like, man, like, this is an insane place to be in. Like, just, I don't know. There's no way you're not hearing 70,000 people chant, "We want Lane," as loud as it was, and not just sitting here thinking, like, it doesn't get much sweeter than this. Like, with all he's been through and the lows he's been through in his coaching career, like, that's got to be a pretty sweet moment for Lane Kiffin, like taking Ole Miss out of it, me being biased, obviously. But as a head coach and being able to, like, restart your family in a place, and on top of that, have the success at football as high of a level as you have, like, the only thing I think that could probably top that for him has to be a national championship, because that was insane. Like, unless we host a home game and then something crazy happens, but at this point in his career, the only thing I could really see topping that is him going to win a natty. Like I said, doesn't matter what. I started this segment about the Ole Miss game that I love Lane Kiffin. If he leaves, I'll just be heartbroken and learn how to live without him. But Jesus Christ, whatever happens, shout out to Lane Kiffin for these last 5-6 years. It's fucking been a ride. I hope like hell he doesn't leave, but ain't nothing I can do. He's going to do what he wants to do. So I just hope that everything that's happened with him and his family and football and everything else in Oxford is, I hope it's kind of bigger than football, and that's what kind of keeps him there. So other than that,
well, next week when we don't have as many big games like we have to talk about this week, we can dive a little bit more into this. But let's go ahead and hit these 2 other games real quick. Here in a few minutes, the playoff rankings should be announced. So we'll hit that whenever it comes out. But 2 games I want to hit on quickly. We'll start off with Alabama and Oklahoma. I think Logan and I, did we pick Bama to win, and then Graham and Tripp pick Oklahoma?
I picked Bama to win this one.
Okay, so I think so it was the other way. Well, Tripp and I were wrong, but it's
I was
if
wrong.
you
I picked Bama 100%.
Okay, so Graham was the only right one.
I thought we all did. Okay, so Graham did pick it. Okay,
or maybe
I think we went all 4 of us. I think all 4 of us picked Bama on that one, but
that's what I thought. I thought it was round table Bama for sure.
No, we split Clemson and Louisville. I think it was. That's what it was.
Me and you took Clemson, Joey. That was
and Clemson did end up winning. So that was a huge game for them. But to this Oklahoma-Alabama game real quick. Turnovers. Untimely field position turnovers. You outgain a team by almost 200 yards and you don't win, you've got to go to it's turnovers or penalties. Well, you throw a pick six, you turn the ball over in your own territory, and then Ryan Williams fumbles on a punt return. With the punt return turning, I think it was the fumble punt return turned into a John Matu touchdown. This Oklahoma defense is ferocious. Even a high-powered unit like Bama couldn't really get it figured out against them. But Bama's really got some questions to figure out about being able to run the ball. All the teams that they're going to be playing, there's going to be people who can take one away. You may be able to get through and beat your Georgias, but you're running. Let's see, they picked up 80 yards on the ground, and Oklahoma didn't. Actually, they picked up less, but they didn't turn the ball over. When you have inefficiencies like that running the ball, and you turn the ball over 3 times, you can't win. Bama also, fun fact, I was researching this for a South Carolina article last night. Bama is number 11, or is that, I don't know what's the right way to phrase this. The 11th least rushing yards per game is Bama. So second in the SEC behind the dreadful South Carolina, who we're going to get to in a second. But yeah, I think Bama is as good of an offensive unit as there is in a country when they're clicking. But if you can't run the ball and you can't find a way to bleed clock when you need to, it's going to be tough to win in this division, especially a championship. And I think that was not being able to run the ball cost you here, because Ty goes for 326. Puts a lot of yards through the air. But again, I'm not going to keep beating it to the ground. But you can't run the ball, it's going to be hard to win.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna keep this one short and sweet, and I think I'm actually gonna take a different approach than maybe you guys are. Maybe it'll surprise me, but aside from this first point, is for the Bama fans out there and for Alabama as a program, I think one of the biggest things to look at is your destiny lies within your own hands at this point. You're not relying on what happens with other teams for your fate. You take care of business the rest of the season, you're in. That's all that matters. I truly think even if they win out, losing the SEC championship and take a third loss, I still think they're in, personally, especially with the amount of ranked wins they have and their impressive resume with their strength of schedule. But I think, and this is coming from a Georgia fan, so if anybody thinks I'm being biased to Alabama, please God, don't think that. I think the biggest positive that Alabama can take away from a game like this is, like Joey was saying, how much you outgain them. You turn the ball over 3 times, and you still only lost by 2 points. So that right there should be enough DNA for you to look at to say, okay, as long as for the rest of this season, including the playoffs, as long as we don't absolutely shit down our leg, we can beat just about any team in this country. And that's really the truth, because a lot of outside viewers looking at this box score are going to look at it and go, oh my God, Oklahoma beat Alabama. But like, if you really dig deep into this box score and you actually watch some of the tape from this game, Alabama beat the shit out of themselves. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Oklahoma. Mateer threw for what, like 138? Like, it's not like Oklahoma was gashing them and they lost this game and they handled them with business. Like, and I hate to say that, not say that Oklahoma beat them and Alabama beat themselves, but this is one of those cases where I think it's actually justified to say that. So I think looking forward for Alabama as a program, especially because I know we have friends that are Alabama fans, is if you look at that as your worst case scenario, as okay, we turn the ball over 3 times, we still only allowed 75 yards on the ground and 138 in the air, and we only lose by 2 points, I think they're in pretty good shape moving forward.
Yeah, I'll follow up off Trip and just say, I think that Trip made a good point touching on Alabama and their DNA. It almost seems as if like they fight their own winning DNA a lot this season and become their own worst enemy. They're top 30 on both sides of the ball in explosives. So as far as giving up explosives, they're 26th in the country. Generating, they're 31st. So I guess technically speaking, I'm wrong, but you get the point. The running problem is the huge glaring issue offensively as to why you're not able to generate points when you need to in the clutch, obviously, because Ty can only do so much. Play action can only do so much when you're not running the ball. and you're terrible at it when you do. But also Ryan Williams, continuing to struggle. These things are all just kind of like indicators to me that a team is struggling with their identity. Because talent-wise, I don't think anyone would argue that. I get all the, he's 17-year-old jokes and whatnot, but the things that he did against Georgia in the game that people call his anomaly and all that, those were real. The things he continued to do when he, shined bright for that offense for the rest of that season and the few times he has this year are real. But this team, I do feel like they are their own worst enemy in a lot of big moments. And they should have lost against Georgia with how they played in the second half, but not going to go into woulda, coulda, shouldas. But I feel like this Oklahoma loss was kind of reminiscent. Like, you want to continue to lay eggs in the second half, you're going to get punished in this league, even if you're as good as you guys are. Most ranked wins in the conference, their DNA shows continually that they belong where they're at or where they hope to be, but they are becoming their own worst enemy these days.
Yeah. One of my biggest takeaways from this game, kind of what you guys are both touching on, it's insane to me to say that Oklahoma had one offensive touchdown and won this football game. That is insane. It's like you kind of look at this and you're like, where did Oklahoma win this game? Like, yeah, there was a couple turnovers by Bama, but Oklahoma had more penalties. Oklahoma had way less yards. They only had 212 total yards. I guess they had 3 turnovers, but so I mean, I guess that answers my question that I'm kind of thinking. Yeah, so I guess turnovers really was the biggest deciding factor of this. But yeah, it's insane to see a quarterback throw for 138 yards and win a game. You would think a running back maybe popped off. Nope, 30 yards. So it's like it's kind of weird looking at the box score and seeing that Bama lost this game. But Oklahoma is somehow hanging out in that conversation still. They're still putting their name in the hat, I guess you could say. It's still a possibility they make playoffs. And one interesting thing I've seen this weekend, Oklahoma is 4-1 against ranked opponents this year. Their only loss being to Ole Miss. So against ranked opponents, it seems like they're kind of showing up. They do have an unranked loss, which is rough, but that unranked loss is Texas, who is now ranked. So it's kind of like however you want to look at it kind of deal, But they do have 4 ranked wins and only 1 ranked loss. So 4-1 record against ranked opponents, pretty solid by Oklahoma. Brent Venables, this late into the season, what we keep talking about how they've kind of fell off since Mateer got back or since Mateer got injured, which they obviously have, but somehow, some way, they're still in this conversation with a couple weeks left. So pretty impressed that Oklahoma's still hanging in there after kind of what they've been through with injury with Mateer and everything. So as sloppy as of a win it is, you still go into Alabama, number 4 in the country, into their home territory and squeak out a dub. So got to give Oklahoma credit for that one.
Yeah. Oklahoma likely going to be in the top 10 of this playoff ranking. I don't think Bama should fall out, but they could. So we'll see what happens there. Another game. All I can do is laugh when I think of this game. So if you've been watching, or maybe you follow me on stuff, I've been covering South Carolina sports this year. Watched every snap of football this year, bar none, the worst offense in the SEC, potentially college football, at least in the P4 sense. Jump out to a 30-3 win lead at halftime. Everything's clicking for them against number 3 Texas A&M. Texas A&M was about as good of a team as you could put on paper. Leading guy in touchdowns in the SEC, 3rd leading receiver in the SEC, most sacks in the country. Your star Cassius Howell, a monster, leads the SEC in sacks, number 2 in the country. Everything was adding up for you to get stumped, and you jump out to a 30-3 run. Mike Furry, new play caller, gets things rolling. Marcel Reed has maybe the worst half of his life, and things are rolling. You're thinking, no matter what, a touchdown, it felt like ices the game, right? And that's sad to say with a 30-3 lead that most teams are going to hold on to that. But then the South Carolina team that I've been watching this entire season showed up in that second half. I want to get this picture pulled up real quick to talk about the disparity in yards. Where is this thing at? Okay, here it is. So South Carolina has not had one game this year over 400 yards. Well, in the first half, they've got 312 at this game. And I'm like, oh my gosh, these guys are rolling. It's going to happen. They're finally getting that offense clicking. With 8.5 minutes left to go in the second half, or in the game, I guess, they had 53 yards of total offense at that point. Just a unspeakable collapse that they had. I've been thinking of all of these, like after this season, like the postseason articles I'll have to write, thinking of like trying to find some positives from this season, right? I can only think of one for the South Carolina team. And the only positive that I could think of is you had Ole Miss, Bama, Oklahoma, Missouri, all teams that are ranked. You were leading against two of them, and the other two, it was one score games. Even Oklahoma, in the second half, at one point, it's one score games, and you just totally fall apart. Your offense is anemic, and you can't win games because of that. So Oklahoma or Texas A&M storms back, scores every possession in the second half, ends up winning the game 31-30. It's just I've never seen a collapse like that from a team that I can think of, being up 27 at halftime in college football. God, there's just I don't even know where to start, but everything has regressed. The defense is playing lights out in the first half. Offense is playing lights out in the first half, and then they both come lay an egg in the second half. They can never play complementary football, and it drives me insane. But
Joey, I didn't think the parameters of college football would allow somebody within college football to become the New York Jets, but the South Carolina Gamecocks have found a way to somehow become the 2018 New York Jets. I don't understand what's going on, man. This is crazy. I was actually at Bolero a couple weeks ago when they was playing Alabama, and I was shooting pool. We had got done playing bowling. We were about to leave, and we was like, oh, they got a pool table. So we got one last round of drinks, and we're playing a pool game for y'all, what, 15, 20 minutes? When we started that game, South Carolina was up 2 tuds, I think, or two scores on Alabama. By the time we racked them motherfuckers, Alabama was already on the sideline. It was a dub. I said, man, this is crazy, bro. Like, and they are so talented. Like Joey, kind of already touched on earlier. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. They definitely have enough reasons within that offense to put away at least some of these bottom feeder teams that they're still losing to. And they should be able to, win games like they had the opportunity to on Saturday. But I've never been a big Shane Beamer guy. I know Joey, defends him, and rightfully so in a lot of areas, but I think that was deplorable. I really do. I do think that those types of losses, and especially ones of that magnitude in the midst of a season where this guy was on the record of saying, when we were this record last year, we went on this run and has done piss poor since then, and lays an egg like he did this weekend 3-4 weeks after that. And I heard actually today he was saying something. This time next year, we'll be looking at the playoff rankings saying, like, man, come on, man, selling snake oil. Cut that shit out, bro. Like, you're the only person in the SEC who I feel like has been getting off like an ACC, pipe dream seller, bro. Like, I'm not buying it. I would be off ashamed with all the coaches that'll become available this offseason. I would get off of him, but I know Joey will probably, shut that down. But
I don't think he's the best coach in the world or anything like that. I just think with this recruiting class that they've got coming in, and they don't have like a top 10 class or anything like that, but a very good class for them. They got Darius Gray coming in, Landon Duckworth. You're way too late in the cycle. You're going to be like the 8th best job. You're going to hire another Shane Beamer if you do that. There's more problems with it. And honestly, I think he's done more fireable things, especially with how this team has not performed, how poorly they've been coached. I think there's more merit to be, but like, again, this is a guy who won 9 games last year. They know that he's the right. I mean, that Bama team, the team that played Oklahoma and looked horrible, and the team that played against Bama, to me, showed that he was going to keep his job because he can rally the guys no matter what the record is and get them to come out and play. But God, if they would have came out and said, "Hey, you do a 4-touchdown lead at halftime or in the second half," I couldn't have defended the guy. But God, I think Lenoris Sellers' regression due to the inept play calling of Mike Shula not only was that fireable, that should be like you should be arrested for that. Just absolutely wasting a talent like Lenora Sellers the way they have. So, God, there's a lot of questions I have that we're going to figure out here the next few weeks. But Logan, Trip, talk to me about that game a little bit.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to say, but just got a few things that I've seen wanted to point out about this game. First thing, you said you can only think of one positive. I got one more positive for you, Joey. A positive as a South Carolina Gamecock football fan right now is that this season is almost over finally. This has been a nightmare of a season for those guys, so that's a positive, South Carolina. This season is almost over. You only got a couple more weeks of this BS. So one quick positive, and then also kind of like Graham was touching on for the South Carolina-Alabama game, talking about you kind of blink your eye almost, like do something for 20 minutes and it's a game. So Saturday, I was helping my dad tear his old deck apart. They're about to redo it, all that, right? So I'm like looking, I get an ESPN notification. I look and I tell my dad, I'm like, you want to know some crazy shit? He's like, what? I was like, South Carolina at halftime is winning 30-3 against number 3 A&M. And my dad's jaw just like hit the floor. He's like, what? Dude, fast forward an hour and I'm like, Dad, you want to know something crazy? He's like, what? I'm like, South Carolina's losing 31-30. They haven't scored a single point all half. And me and my dad just laughed like, God, they've been so bad this year. So with that being said, South Carolina had a 97.8% win probability was their max, right? Okay, so since 2004, 0-286 record for teams winning by – our team's trailing by 27 points since 2004. Obviously, South Carolina just become the one team that was now 1-286 since 2004. This marked the largest SEC comeback since 2004. And if you could have told me any team in the SEC this year would have a fall off like this or a fallout, like I think pretty much everybody's, if not first option, at least second option probably would have been South Carolina because just kind of how their season's gone. So that's just a couple of things I wanted to point out about South Carolina. One thing I want to point out about A&M is shout out to Elko. The Aggies clinched their first 10-win season since 2012 when they had Johnny Manziel. So first time in a long time that the Aggies look like they're, I don't want to say on top, but back on top,
This is the best team they've ever had.
Oh, yeah. I mean, them boys are rolling. So shout out to Elko. Shout out to A&M finding a guy after having to do a buyout, such a huge buyout that they had to do for Jimbo Fisher, and somehow they pivoted, and it's worked phenomenal. So a lot of teams, I think, are going to see what A&M has done and maybe get a little bit of false hope, and that's probably why we're seeing the James Franklin buyouts and things of that nature, the Brian Kellys, because let's be honest, dude, what A&M is selling these guys as far as making a buyout and still having success, it's kind of a pipe dream. Like, this isn't going to happen too often, I don't think. I think this is really lightning in the bottle, and they're giving a lot of these teams false hope. But at the end of the day, we will see. The biggest question I have after this game is obviously, is Beamer the head coach of South Carolina next year? That's one of the questions. This kind of reminds me of kind of like you were saying, Joe, you're the 8th best job. They would kind of be in that Auburn realm where it's like you fire Hugh Freeze, but what's the best option you can get other than Hugh Freeze right now? So they're kind of in that realm. It kind of gives me the same vibe. But my biggest takeaway is, do you guys think Lenore Seller is a Gamecock next year? Because
no, Joey said last week he know he gonna transfer. I think that's a fair.
It just feels like wasted talent, like you're saying.
Yeah.
So,
well, he can't go pro. He
can't go pro this year.
He was predicted, like, if this year would have went how he was expected to go, he would be a top 15 pick, no question. But what I mean, I think this home run. Maybe I'll learn to talk one day when I'm doing this. This next hire for OC has to be a home run, especially if you want to keep Sellers. Otherwise, there's no reason for him to stay there. I mean, the way that obviously Shula's going, and I think he was a large part of that. I don't really like blaming play callers a ton, but he was awful. I've never seen an offensive coordinator get chanted to be fired during a game in my life until him. But I mean, Nick Harbor was, he's had some huge plays this year, but he's been a major disappointment. Mazio Bennett, who I thought was going to be their leading receiver, has 8 catches this year. He's probably gone. I just don't. I don't know why you would stay at South Carolina if you're him. I hope for the sake of South Carolina fans that I interact with, I hope for the sake of them that they do. but I just don't see it. And one thing I want to say about the articles too. Let me tell you what really pissed me off. I had to scrap my whole article for the second half for the end of it, the post game recap. I had to basically scratch the whole thing
because they fucked you over.
Bro, I was sweating towards the end.
Hey,
but we'll see about Sellers.
I'll say this real quick, Joey, and then I'm gonna let Tripp give his piece. You're talking about you can't think of any other OC who's been chanted to get fired during the middle of a game. The only one that comes to mind is Matt Canada when he was with the Steelers. And if you're getting in a conversation with Matt Canada, Matt Canada, you're in a bad situation, bro. Very bad situation.
That's rough. Go ahead, Tripp.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot on this that you guys already haven't hit on. But one thing that I do want to point out, going back a little bit to the Big Ten SEC debate, that was another thing that kind of sparked this conversation, especially with A&M squeaking by South Carolina. So they posted this graphic during the game. Texas A&M's SEC opponents were 7 of the bottom 8 SEC teams this year.
Yep.
The only one they didn't play in the bottom 8 was Kentucky. But with that being said, they still have
Kentucky's
a higher
7th.
Say it again.
And Kentucky is 7th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that being said, Texas A&M still has a higher strength of schedule than Ohio State, Indiana, BYU, Oregon, and Texas Tech. So that argument, I think, is just kind of invalid, and that goes back to like the SEC is just a gauntlet as a whole. This kind of was touching on a point you made earlier, Joey. South Carolina led Missouri, Alabama, and A&M in the fourth quarter of the season and came out of all 3 of those 0-3, being outscored 33-7. So they had every opportunity to make something happen, and unfortunately just can't pull away. I'm gonna be honest with you. I wouldn't be surprised either way, whatever Lenore Sellers decides. If there's anybody that can convince him to come back, it's definitely Shane Beamer. I do agree that he's not getting fired after this season. I think next season is his last season if he doesn't make something happen. But they obviously just extended him last season. He really is a hell of a coach. I think he's just had a really, really shitty go at his OC this year, unfortunately. And his offensive line obviously needs a lot of work. But I don't know if you guys saw this today, but they apparently interviewed Shane Beamer, and they asked him a question about where South Carolina will be next year. And he said, quote, "I do know next year at this time we're going to be sitting here on this Tuesday night watching the playoff rankings to see where we are."
Graham said that a minute ago. Yep.
Yeah, high hopes, but got a lot of work to do to get to that point, buddy. I don't know if you can say that confidently just yet.
And this same guy at halftime, Trip, I'm sorry to cut you off there. Same guy at halftime who says, we beat this team 44-22 last year.
Yeah, that's last year. Yeah. I mean, it really goes to show you how quick things can fall apart. I mean, they were a couple plays away last year from being a playoff team. And now look at them. They're not even going to make a bowl game. So I personally am a fan of Shane Beamer. I think that he's a great coach. He's just doesn't really have all that I think that we thought that they had this year. But holy shit, you want to talk about that might be the worst, maybe not the worst loss I've ever seen. And like, as far as the
boys up there,
it's close. I mean, you guys saw how many records got broken from this game. So,
yeah.
I mean, they had Marcel Reed in a blender that first half. I mean, that guy was making the worst throws I've seen him make all year long in any aspect of any game. Like, he looked, I don't want to say perfect, but like going into this game, I was like, how is this guy not in more talks about Heisman conversations? But he just looked lost, which is a testament to South Carolina's defense. But at the same time, man, it was just like
second half. Dylan Stewart could have came and watched that shit with me at the crib, Trick. It wouldn't have made no difference. My boy was balling all first half. He could have came and watched that shit right up here in the crib with me. We could have went to Roku City and enjoyed the game, bro. Because, I mean, hey, that shit was crazy. That's why I'm worried about the coaching. I'm not worried about him getting them hyped before the game. But all these second half blunders and shit, Trip, my bad. I didn't mean to cut you off, but that second half fall off was insane, bro.
No, yeah, I definitely think a lot of this has to go on Shane Beamer here. And I definitely think the next popular meme that's going to be rolling around is him hyping up the crowd going into the tunnel at half.
Oh yeah. Now,
I
granted,
mean,
he was hyping his own fans up. I think a lot of people thought he was running at Texas A&M fans doing that. Still bad look. Still terrible optics on that. But I think a lot of people thought he was doing it in front of Texas A&M fans, which would have been even crazier.
yeah, I don't think he was doing that. But just so y'all know, the rankings did just drop.
I was just about to say that.
If we want to segue to that, let's do it.
Hey, I
About
want
to
to
go
say
ahead and
this
get
real
into it.
quick. Bozo of the week goes to the state policeman that literally throws his elbows out and hits 2 South Carolina.
Dude.
Like, Bozo of the week. Like, what a clown, dude. Like,
They're talking about him getting fired.
Yeah, he got relieved of his duties during the game. They sent his ass home, which rightfully he should never be allowed to like be able to be a deputy at, or not a deputy, but a state policeman, whatever, at one of those games again. Like the fact he throws his elbows out and then turns around like fuck you, dude. Like, get off your power trip.
Yeah, and he was relieved of his game day duties pretty quickly. My favorite part about that was when everybody was like, he should be fired. He should be fired. He should never do another game. And he's literally like, they kicked him out within 10 minutes of it happening.
Hey, shout out to A&M for getting it right immediately.
Yeah,
immediately. So shout out to A&M for that.
So playoff rankings just dropped. I do want to give a big shout out real quick before we do that. We can talk more about it next week, but shout out James Franklin. Got a new job at Virginia Tech. Graham and I talked about it in our group text. This is a place where he's going to do no wrong. He's going to be worshipped. Could not have landed at a better place. Maybe not for being competitive immediately, but as a place who will worship your feet with everything you do. They got the right guy for that. So we'll dive into more of that next week. But yes, the rankings just dropped right now. I'm just going to read from number 10 down to number 1. Number 10, Bama. Trent, we were pretty automatic on that about Bama not falling out of the top 10. Number 9, Notre Dame. Number 8, Oklahoma. Number 7, Oregon. Number 6, Ole Miss. Number 5, Texas Tech. Number 4, Georgia. Number 3, A&M. Number 2, Indiana. Number 1, Ohio State. Not much variance in that top 3, obviously, but Georgia doesn't only crack they in the top 5, but it goes up a little bit past that. Ole Miss, they went out, obviously a lock now. Oklahoma skating in that top 10 is pretty crazy, especially with how we've seen the offense fall off. Bama, that strength of schedule is going to keep them in the top 10, in my opinion. So here, actually, I'll get it pulled up so we can take a look at it. Give me 1 sec. But anybody want to dive in on anything I said? Go ahead.
Nothing. So, I mean, honestly, nothing really sticks out to me here. I've been harping on Georgia Tech not being ranked higher, but man, what a dud of a game they have. I mean, I don't want to say dud. They put up a ton of yards, but man, they also allowed a ton. And them letting 1-9 at the moment now, 1-10, Boston College hanging there until like a last-second field goal or last-minute field goal, whatever. Pretty insane. So, sorry, Tech fans. Easton, I saw you in the comments last week. You were buzzing. You were happy that I was out here chirping for your boys. I'm sorry, I can't chirp for you this week, buddy. That was a tough game, but they came out with a win. Most importantly, so they're still in the spot where they can win out and make the playoffs for sure. So I can't really vouch for them too much on being ranked 16th this week, though. So other than that, nothing really sticks out to me. That doesn't stick out to me either. It just Tech proved me wrong. I was on their side until this week. I can't really fight for them here.
I just want to say I saw like somebody posted like a mock bracket of what it would look like with this new ranking system that comes out. This is probably my favorite thing that I see every week after these rankings. So Tulane would be getting in as the G5 school, and then Miami would be the one that would get in for the ACC as of right now. But if this is if the playoffs started today, Georgia would be getting a bye, and their first game would be the winner of Tulane and Texas Tech. That is about as pretty of a bracket for a Georgia fan that I can imagine. But then you win that game, you go on to play the winner of Ohio State versus Oklahoma or Notre Dame. So it does get pretty choppy, but getting to that final four would be a pretty good setup. I don't want to get too deep into this. I don't know how much further down y'all looked at the rankings. Texas drops to 17, which I think me and Joey talked about this the other day. if they beat A&M, which they were the team that I predicted was going to knock A&M off earlier in the season, not South Carolina giving A&M a run for their money, I think where they're sitting right now gives them a chance to sneak into one of those last spots if they finish out. Being a 3-loss team, I don't think they should, but if they beat A&M, it's going to be pretty hard to argue personally. But we'll see.
Yeah, I don't have any, or I don't have too many bones to pick this week. I will say this. I do think when you play a bad game, if you play one, matters a lot. Like playing a bad game in November does need to be judged differently than playing a bad game in October, especially early October, late September.
100%.
I think Georgia beats Texas A&M on a neutral or home or away field right now. I do. If we're gonna nitpick, we could shoot the shit about rankings 15 through 25 all day. Of course, that's where the most parity is always going to be, because that's where a lot of records and circumstances are a lot more, similar, and you kind of trying to break shit down by the centimeters. But I'm gonna also say this, man, they might be having the sweetheart effect on me. I don't think Indiana want to play Texas Tech right now. Ideally, I don't think they would. I don't think Indiana would enjoy strolling into any field right now when playing this Texas Tech team. I get that people can, be, sticklers of the Big 12, all that they want. But I think that I've been on the record at least once or twice on this show, this season, saying that Texas Tech is my dark horse pick. I've kind of been drinking the Kool-Aid for them all year. I've been seeing things within their identity and the way that their coach gets around their guys that I kind of believe in as well. If there is a team that I feel like if they continue to, catch lightning in a bottle and can stay healthy and also favor for some, get some favorable matchups, if the cards shake their way, I do think that some of these teams like Indiana, Oregon, Notre Dame, I don't think they would really want to roll up on them right now. The teams I feel confident with playing them are, a lot of the usual suspects and a lot of the people that really haven't moved much in these rankings. Ole Miss, I got them beating a lot of teams that are in front of them right now on a neutral field. They haven't moved much. But, again, like Joey said, there'll be a lot more room to talk about and expand on all these things next week, because aren't all the conferences done with their conference games next week, fellas?
Well, no, because you got rivalry week.
And shoot, that's right. Yeah.
Ohio State, Michigan, Auburn, Alabama, Texas A&M, Texas. So
Ole Miss State.
Yeah, exactly. So, dude, I was just looking. I just want to say this real quick before we go ahead, Logan.
My bad. I just wanted to jump in because it's kind of something Graham just kind of finished up with. So Graham was talking about Texas Tech's coach kind of getting behind his players. Shout out to him for putting that linebacker that a lot of people are saying Jacob Rodriguez. A lot of people, especially on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, like a lot of people are trying to say he needs to be in Heisman talks. And shout out to their head coach. I don't know his name. Shout out to him, though. He puts in a linebacker at quarterback to get him a rushing touchdown because he says that I heard quarterback snaps matter a lot when you talk about Heisman runs. So shout out to him for doing that and then speaking up on it in his post conference. Like, that's badass to see a coach just back his guy like that. Putting a linebacker in a quarterback to get a rushing touchdown, super cool. So just to go off what Graham was saying about that coach backing his players, like I said, I don't even know his name, but shout out to him because in that moment, don't even know who you are, respectfully. Obviously, you got Texas Tech rolling. Don't really know who he is. But, man, is it cool to see a coach get behind his players like that. Always earn my respect when I see some stuff like that. So just wanted to point that out real quick. Sorry, Joey, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was just going to harp on real quick. Like, I still think, like, I know Georgia is trending in a super right direction right now, getting hot. God, this Ohio State team, man, I just looked at a CBS mock draft while we were sitting here. There are 5 guys predicted to go in the first round on that team. And that's not including Jeremiah Smith.
Jeremiah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So just wanted to shout that out because that's very scary. But
Logan, shout out to Coach Joey McGuire. That's his name, man. Big shouts to Coach McGuire. He definitely doing his thing this year.
McGuire, I'll never forget it. My fault. Lindsay's dad, dude, my fault.
There you go. Well, all right, fellas, let's pick these games and get out of here. Not a ton of big games in terms of rivalry, or in terms of rankings. There are some, but there are some games that I think could be really scary for a few teams. whether it be just the prospect of losing a game to a team that has nothing to lose or something to that effect. I don't know why this maximize thing is on in front of that. Oh, okay, we're just froze there. That's cool. Anyways, okay, so I'm gonna pull some of these games up real quick. We'll go in order from down here. All right. This one must just escape me because I didn't see it on here. So Missouri at Oklahoma. This one I think is very tricky. Oklahoma 7.5-point favorite. I do think they're the better team, but when you don't have an offense, now granted, Missouri's on their third string quarterback, I believe. Purbuell and their other backups hurt. I think Oklahoma wins this one. I don't think they cover here though. I think this is a one-score game, and it could come down to the wire. But I'm taking Oklahoma here.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. Give me Oklahoma. I don't think they'll cover the spread, because Missouri's still playing their second or third string quarterback at this point.
Yeah, Purbuell is hurt, and I think their backups hurt too.
Zellers is still their quarterback right now.
Yeah, give me Oklahoma, man.
Yeah, my bad. I forgot that we go in the order of the way that the drop screen go, but yeah, I got Oklahoma winning as well. Their defense might be the best and most talented individual side of the football in the country, at least for current form speaking. So, yeah, I think the Sooners will roll.
Yeah, initially this kind of seems like the kind of game where maybe Missouri can play a spoiler here. Is kind of how I'm feeling, but at the same time, man, not with your third string quarterback, you don't. So I think Oklahoma, especially at home, takes care of business here and keeps their name in that playoff conversation.
All right. Next, Mercer at Auburn. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not even going to touch on the Georgia game this week. Ole Miss is off. But kind of the first big
– Auburn's off.
Say what?
I said Alabama's off, Auburn's off. Bunch of shit games this week, honestly.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, a big ranked matchup right here. USC at Oregon. Oregon is a 10.5-point favorite against a ranked USC. Is pretty crazy to me. I got USC pulling the upset off and potentially knocking Oregon out of the playoffs here.
Joey, he drinking some of that USC Kool-Aid with me finally.
Hey, I'm on that Marcus Allen.
I've been seeing some of the hints that you've been dropping at me. You kind of, you piggybacked off my offensive comments when we was, trying to feed the Kool-Aid to Logan last week, but now you a full-fledged member. Get in the car, homie. I'm rolling with the Trojans. You already know how I'm feeling this week. Hey, get out the car, homie. But no, what I would say is this, man. I did kind of take a deeper look into this game. I'm not gonna go crazy and go on a spill on it, but what I will say is that USC is peaking right now. I just do think that Oregon, their defense is only allowing like 13 points a game. I think that is what's going to present just enough of a problem to USC's offense, which is what's propelling them right now to keep them from winning this game. It is also in Oregon, hard-ass stadium to get a dub in at any time or circumstance. So, yeah, I got the Ducks rolling this week.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Dan Lanning in this one. I think that Oregon is favored this heavy for a reason. I do think USC's offense is going to throw them for a loop, but I don't think that Oregon has any issues taking care of business here. I think that USC is a very good team, but I don't think they're good enough to go into Oregon and make something happen.
Yeah, I'm going with Trip on this one. I'm picking the Ducks. I do kind of feel like this game does kind of feel like a win you get in kind of game for playoff. Seems like that could be kind of the case. So I do think this is a game that I'm going to be trying my best to tune into. Maybe Graham, I'll get this USC, get this deep dive of USC that I've been missing. As a program, I hate that I always feel like they're overranked. They're in that same category as like Notre Dame for me. So this week I'm gonna do what I can to tune into this one and see what this hype's about.
Maybe if I told you they're the Tennessee of the Big Ten, could you get behind like what I'm trying to get at? And I'm not trying to throw no shade. But kind of gimmicky but very talented. Like, all right.
All right. So next, Arkansas, Texas. Another one of those games where it's at Texas. I think Texas wins this one. They're 8.5-point favorite. But I think when you've got a player like Taylor Green running your offense and you have nothing to play for but ruin anybody's season, always it presents a bit of a maybe not a challenge, but a bit of a scare that I think has proven itself to happen for lack of a better term. Texas wins though, but do not be surprised if this one comes down to the wire as well.
Yeah, I got Texas winning by 3 scores, 21 points. Probably. I
Just
do.
totally faded me.
No,
Yeah.
I think this team is definitely gonna know that they got too much in front of them still. Like Logan, Tripp, and you make great points about all episode. That was an ass whooping, and they're definitely too talented to go out on that note. Whether they go on to win an Natty, which I don't think any of us expect, they know they can't go out like this. This team will play like it this week.
Yeah, not only does Arkansas have an interim head coach and has no idea what their future looks like, Texas has played very well at home this year for the most part. They really have only struggled on the road. And I think to go back to my point earlier when we were talking about rankings for a minute, Texas beats Arkansas and then finds a way to beat A&M. They are very well going to be sitting there on Selection Sunday with their fingers crossed with a chance to get in. So, obviously a lot of stuff has to happen in front of them for that to happen. But I think there's still like a 40, I think they said like 40 to 45% chance of getting in after losing to Georgia. So a lot's still on the table to where they shouldn't be, waving the white flag just yet. So I think they're going to try and go out and put belt to ass this weekend to add as much to their resume as they possibly can to finish it out.
Yeah, I'm going to go with pretty much like everybody else saying, going Texas Longhorns here. And I'm going to just throw this out there. Look for Arch Manning to have a big game. And I say that because Arch Manning, he can scramble, move around. He's mobile. He can sling it when he wants to, it seems. And me not watching a lot of Arkansas games this year, if Chambliss did that to Arkansas, I think that Arch Manning could have a similar game against Arkansas. So I could see old Archie having a big week.
That's a good point, Logan.
All right. We got 2 more, or actually 3 more. We'll hop through these quick. Pitt at Georgia Tech. This one screams upset alert. Tech's a 2.5-point favorite. But Georgia Tech also knows that they have a small margin for error, kind of like what we were just talking about with Texas. And their game next week that they've got, I think that's one thing that could. I don't think Pitt is a team you can just sleep on, but they know what's coming up next Friday, on Black Friday. So that always worries you a little bit of them looking ahead. But I think Tech wins in another close one.
Yeah, Joey, I actually got Tech losing for that exact reason you hit at. I do think that they're looking down 2 weeks in advance. They're looking down the road. I think they got their eyes on Georgia, and it's going to come back and bite them because Pitt is playing with blood in their mouth. Pitt just got their first, college game day at their home field in a long time last week. They suffered a rough loss. They're going to be playing with some hunger, and that's why I got Pitt edging out Tech. Tech's been playing with their food for the last couple of weeks. I think they're going to get punished this week.
I'm going to roll Tech in this one. I think that it is going to be a good game, and if Pitt wins this, I wouldn't be surprised, and I almost took Pitt in this, but this game has a lot of implications on the ACC championship. If Tech wins this game, I think that they're automatically in, if I'm not mistaken. If they lose, Pitt has a chance to get in because Georgia Tech is first in ACC right now. Pitt's at third. So I think that Brent Key's going to rally the guys and make sure they take care of business. And I think that's what's going to end up hurting them for Black Friday is they're going to be too focused on the ACC championship, not worried about that in-state rival. But we'll see. I could easily see Pitt making this happen. I did want to bring up just one quick point, and this is half the reason why I'm taking Tech. Their defense has been abysmal just about this whole season, especially these last few weeks. But one thing I do want to give credit to, Haynes King leads Fernando Mendoza, Julian Sand, Marcel Reed, Diego Pavia, and Gunnar Stockton in total yards per game, least interceptions, and scoring per game. The guy's a killer, man. So as long as that defense can play, somewhat decent in this one, I think they come out.
Yeah, I'm going to go Georgia Tech here as well. I believe in Haynes King too much, I think. Not too much is in a bad sense, but I believe in him too much to think that he would let them lose the pit. I think this could be a Haynes King game, kind of like last week. Like their defense hasn't really showed up. Like Graham saying last couple of weeks, they played with their food. But Haynes King this past week really put the team on his back and made sure them guys went and got that victory. So I kind of feel like he might do the same thing here. And I don't know. I see Tech getting it done and getting into this Black Friday game, as you said, Joey, amped up and ready to play. But I will say this about the Black Friday game: Kirby Smart better bring out the black jerseys, dude. Black jerseys on Black Friday against Tech would be so sick. I'm just saying.
If they didn't do it last year, they're not going to do it.
You said what?
If they didn't do it last year, they're not going to do it. It was on Black Friday last year.
Yeah, but this one is 2 playoff teams. You know what I mean? Like caliber teams. So.
Yeah.
That's why I think it'd be a great time to do it and get your guys, like your team, amped up. But just an unbiased outside fan looking in, I would really enjoy seeing them guys run out the tunnel in black, kind of like Mark Richt did back in the day with the black uni. Surprise them right before the kickoff. That'd be sick.
Yeah. So we'll see. All right. Florida, Tennessee at Florida. Tennessee ranked number 23. Definitely out of the playoff picture, but at a tough place in the swamp. Tennessee's a 3.5-point favorite, but I do expect them to walk in there and excuse me. Thank you. Walk in there and take business against Florida.
Yeah, no, I actually got Tennessee taking care of business this week as well. Like Joey just said, I think this is one of those games that, as much as I give Heupel shit, at least close to the time of the year where we play them, he is the 4th best coach in this conference. And he's kind of cemented that a couple of times throughout his tenure at Tennessee. A lot like we talked about with Lane doing with Ole Miss. Not to make this a whole spill on him, but he's taken them to heights that at least recently they haven't been to. And winning games like this at this point in the year are kind of what solidifies you as that type of coach. So Tennessee gets it done this week against a poor Florida team without a head coach still.
Yeah, I'd rather sit in a room with 2 of my exes than to sit here and talk about 2 of these teams I hate more than anything in the world. But I'm actually, this is going to be, I like picking at least one upset a week, and I'm actually going to take Florida in this one, mostly because it's in the swamp and how well they at least played in the first half against Ole Miss last week. I do think these guys are still trying to ball, even though they have nothing to really play for other than trying to put on a show for whoever their next head coach is. But yeah, I'm going to take Florida to take the upset this week. They're good for knocking off a team or 2 once a year. So
I'm going to pick Tennessee for the same reason you're picking Florida. Yes, Florida looked great in the first half, but Florida didn't score a single point in the second half of that game. So I think that's a big reason why I'm leaning Tennessee here. And kind of like Graham's saying, seems like Heupel kind of has Tennessee, I don't want to say rolling, but in a good spot, I would say. So I'm going to pick the Volunteers and look for the Volunteers to get 10 wins this season. Look for them to knock off Florida, possibly knock off Vandy next week, and then go win a bowl game and get a 10-win season. That'd be about as good of a season you could have for Tennessee without making playoffs, I would say. And then real quick, Graham, who's the 3 coaches better than him? Just want to hear this real quick. You said about the 4th coach.
It's Kirby, it's Lane, and it's Elko.
So he's not better than DeBoer?
I think I'm gonna put DeBoer and Elko like they 3A and 3B for me. I wouldn't put Heupel above either of them. I think what Elko's done in just 2 years, or a year and some change, I guess, since he's in the midst of this season, he's still got to close out. But damn, man, to come from Duke and do what you're doing in the SEC, I mean, any coach who come from out of the SEC and coaching this gauntlet of a conference catches the hammer from people, and he really ain't done nothing but shut our asses up all year. He shut me the hell up quickly.
Hey, so you're picking him over Venables? Is that what I'm hearing?
We got a lot of good coaches. We got to save this for another episode.
Let's wrap it up with this one. Our only other ranked matchup of the week, number 12 BYU at Cincy. It seems like whenever I pick against BYU, I picked them against A&M and it failed me. So, or Texas Tech and it failed me. So maybe my logic shot, but they're only a 3.5 or 2.5 point favorite against Cincinnati, but I expect them to win by double digits.
Oh wow, man! I actually had BYU only squeaking this out by 3 this week. A close one, but BYU gets it done.
BYU's on the outside looking in. I think this newest ranking has them as the first team out, so destiny completely lies within their hands. And I don't think this is going to be the week that they slip that up. So I'm going to take BYU.
Yeah, anytime you got a quarterback with the name of Bear rocking number 47, clearly don't give a damn. So I'm going BYU. This man don't give a shit. And yeah, I mean, your name's Bear and you're rocking 47 as a quarterback. So it's hard to root against that guy.
Fair reasoning.
He's a one of one. So
well, all right. Appreciate everybody staying tuned with us. A little bit of a long one today, but a lot to talk about. So we'll be back tomorrow with our NFL episode, and next week we'll dive into some other topics here as well. So once again, appreciate everybody joining, and we'll see you next time. We're out of here. Peace.
peace.
Peace, y'all.